You may not know this, but recently some letters came out showing that Bruce Lee had something of a cocaine habit.
Really?
Yeah. They were just auctioned off about a couple months ago after my book came out. And so that doesn't really change my perspective on Bruce, because I always sort of viewed him as kind of an actor who was trying to be like Steve McQueen. But it's a little more extreme than just smoking some pot and eating a few hash brownies.
Was it letters written by Bruce, or was it about Bruce Lee and using drugs, or what was the perspective?
No, it was letters written by Bruce to his drug dealer in California asking him to ship more cocaine over.
Wow. That's such a romantic way to ask for drugs. I think if you are going to do drugs, you should have to write a letter to your drug dealer saying how much I appreciate you and how much I want to do the drugs, and I really enjoy the service that you're providing to me. Like, spice it up a little bit instead of just sending a text. Your guy comes to the door, you don't know anything about his life. Like I'm just imagining Bruce Lee going back and forth with his coke dealer with love letters, like following up every month, being like, "How are you? You know, I haven't heard from you in a while. You know, just been thinking about you."
It's like. It could be like Civil War letters, like, "Dear sir, the war goes on. When will it ever end? Could you send some more coke?"
Yes.
So his dealer was one of his students, actually. So it was somebody he knew.
Yeah.
So there's like a series of at least a dozen letters back and forth where he's like, one of them is like, he wrote a letter where he said, "I'm so high." And the letter's slanted, like he's writing like a 6-year-old, like big cursive. And so the thing what struck me about it is that's not a text or an email. Like, you wrote the letter and then the next day you had to mail it. You can't, I think he had a lot of the kind of celebrity flaws of that era. Which don't look as good in retrospect, but were very common back then. And I think, one of the things you think about is, if he had continued to live, would he have ended up in rehab? Like, would he have been like 4 divorces later? Would he have been making Enter the Dragon 6? As a desperate attempt to reinvigorate his career? Like, one of the things about dying at the peak of your powers is that's how you're remembered. And no one sees you get old. No one sees you mess up. And all the things that happen to people is, Brad Pitt's amazing, but we've all seen him go through, like, Angelina Jolie accusing him of being a drunk who hit her kids. Like, Bruce Lee never had to experience any of that.
Yeah, and we've had decades since then to build up the stigma against drug users and apply a moral lens to it through the lens of 2022. But at the time, cocaine was a relatively new drug. He's around all these celebrities that are also doing it. Like, I'm trying to, put myself in the small slice of what I do know about Bruce Lee's life, and being someone who's open-minded but also not afraid at the same time, and also very philosophical. I could totally see him just seeing cocaine, acknowledging that, yes, this seems like it is a bad thing for a lot of people to get into, but at its core, it's an experience. I can ingest this substance and have it run through my body, and I'm going to have thoughts and feelings that I wouldn't have sober. Just like smoking weed. Like, obviously, cocaine's a much more addictive, intense drug, but I imagine him kind of trying to philosophize the cocaine experience and doing it for the first time. And, I don't know if he was doing it every day or he did it like 5 or 6 times. I have no idea of the frequency, but I could totally see it. I could see him approaching it with such an open, inquisitive mind, and just approaching it like anything else. Like, this is an experience I'm having right now. All my friends are doing it. It gives me energy. This feeds into exactly what I want to do. I want to talk to people. I want to do kung fu. Like, seeing Bruce Lee coked out doing kung fu must have been like the top level of energy that anyone has ever had who's existed.
Yeah, actually, like, it feels like
you could have like nuclear fission out of that. Like it's that much energy in one place. Yes, I think you captured it quite well, which is he was a man of that era when during that era people did not think cocaine was very dangerous.